Right. Let us step straight into the heart of the discussion, because things at Ibrox have reached a quil ponto where every whisper feels like it could tip the balance. The future of the captain has gone from background noise to headline debate, and you can feel the tension growing every time his contract gets mentioned. His deal is winding down, and even number Ano Caio de Altos e Bixos, he is still that figure who drags the team forward when the rest of the squad looks stuck in the mud. Yet the silence from the club about an extension only dixa o ambiente mês passado, porque ninguém quer ver uma decisão tão grande ser dixada para a última hora. And here's where the worry really begins. Rangers had hoped to have the next right back already settling in, learning the badge, understanding the weight of the shirt. That was the plan. Bring in a younger option, let him adapt, and eventually allow him to grow into the position. But football is rarely tau simples. The signing they expected to thrive has not taken hold of the role, and instead of easing into a transition, the club has been thrown right back into uncertainty. A Medanka que deveria ser natural viru uma interrogação gigante, and suddenly the idea of letting the captain walk seems far more complicated than many imagined at the start of the season. Inside the club, every angle is being debated. On one hand, there is a strong recognition that his experience is unmatched. You are talking about a player who has given a decade of his career to Rangers, who has stepped onto the pitch more than 500 times, and who delivers attacking numbers that most wingers would be proud of. He sets standards in training, he sets standards on match days, and even agora, aos 34 anos, he remains one of the most reliable performers. If the team is struggling, he is usually involved in the few moments of quality Rangers manage to produce. In a squad that has lacked consistency, he is one of the rare exceptions. But football moves fast and budgets do not stretch forever. Rangers are staring at a rebuild that touches multiple areas of the pitch, and they cannot afford to pour heavy wages into long contracts for older players. That is not lack of respect. It is simply the reality of a club trying to balance ambition with sustainability. The board knows that if they mishandle this decision, they could end up losing a leader and creating a recruitment crisis at the same time. Because if he leaves, it is not just a matter of finding one replacement. Rangers would need a new starter and a new backup, two players who understand the league, the pressure, the expectations. And filling two gaps in one window is never easy. Ainda mais quando outras posicos também precisam de atenção urgent. This is where the dilemma tightens. Keeping him on a sensible deal might be the safest option, particularly when the list of signings in recent months has not exactly calmed the support. Fans have watched a series of additions come in without making the desired impact, leaving the squad looking unbalanced and, alguns jogos, completamente perdido. The absence of strong personalities has been obvious, and the lack of goals has turned every match into a knife-edge affair. The heavy European run of defeats has only intensified the frustration, because Rangers are a club built on competing, on pushing, on refusing to shrink on the continental stage. To see the team fall short match after match hit harder than many outside Glasgow would understand. Inside Ibrox, the atmosphere in the last European night was a wake-up call. The noise was sharp, the frustration was loud, and you could tell the crowd was no longer willing to accept explanations. They wanted action, they wanted identity, they wanted recruitment that truly lifted the level of the squad. And that is why every decision in the next window carries a weight far bigger than usual. Supporters are worried that too many signings have been gambles rather than guarantees, players brought in with promise but not performance, leaving the manager with a team full of potential but short on certainty. When a striker arrives for Milhos and barely finds the net, the pressure rises. When younger players are brought in without showing the quality expected, the question marks grow. And when this all unfolds while the captain continues to produce numbers and leadership this late in his career, the comparison becomes almost inevitable. The fans see who is delivering and who is not, and they do not hide their opinions. All of this creates a storm around the contract situation. Rangers cannot afford to lose a pillar of the team at the very moment the squad needs stability more than ever. Ao mesmo tempo, they cannot ignore the financial reality and tie themselves into a deal that does not make sense for the future. The ideal scenario is a balanced agreement, a contract that respects everything he has done while also protecting the club as it prepares for a major overhaul. The rebuild ahead will take time, investment, and clarity. Rangers cannot miss the mark with this one. Meanwhile, the bigger narrative surrounding the squad continues to simmer. The supporters want a team that reflects the club's identity: aggressive, confident, demanding. They want players who play with chest out, not shoulders down. They want recruitment that hits the mark, not experiments that fall flat. And every time the captain steps up with another key moment, another goal, another cross that changes a match, it becomes clearer just how much his presence still matters. The months ahead will define the direction Rangers take. Whether they choose continuity with the captain or attempt a bold reset, the consequences will echo through every part of the squad. The supporters know it, the board knows it, and the dressing room certainly feels it. The club stands at a crossroads, and the next move must be made with clear thinking rather than emotion, because the margin for error has never felt smaller at Ibrox. And while the conversation about the captain dominates nearly every corner of the club, there is another issue bubbling just as strongly beneath the surface, and it revolves around the direction of recruitment and the confidence the support has, or no longer has, in the current decision-makers. The frustration that spilled out in recent weeks did not appear from nowhere. It has been building window after window, as signings arrived with excitement but left the pitch with questions hanging over their heads. You can sense that the trust between the stands and the hierarchy has been stretched thin, because the supporters feel they have been asked one time too many to be patient while results on the park continue to slide. There is a feeling around Glasgow that Rangers have struggled to identify players who can handle the pressure that comes with wearing this badge. It is not enough to have talent. You need the mentality to cope with the expectations of a club that demands victories every weekend. Some of the summer arrivals looked promising on paper, yet the adaptation has been slow, the impact has been limited, and the squad has ended up looking more like a puzzle missing pieces rather than a unit ready to fight for trophies. And that lack of cohesion shows every time the team walks into a tight match and cannot find a spark. Supporters have pointed to the way certain signings were handled, especially when relatives of people inside the structure have been placed in key roles. That sort of thing naturally raises eyebrows in a city where football is treated almost like a civic religion. The fanbase does not want the club drifting into decisions that feel experimental or sentimental. They want strategies grounded in clarity, competence, and ambition. When you combine that with expensive signings who have barely scratched the surface of their potential, it becomes easy to see why people are questioning whether the right eyes are judging the right players. The frustration boiled over in Europe, where a run of defeats tested the patience of even the most loyal supporters. European nights have always meant something special at Ibrox: floodlights buzzing, the noise rising, the feeling that the entire continent is watching. But instead of using those occasions as platforms for belief, they became reminders of just how far the team has drifted from the standards the club once held. When fans watched another collapse unfold, it did not feel like just one bad night. It felt like the culmination of months of mistakes in recruitment and planning. That atmosphere of disappointment did not leave the stadium quietly. It stayed in the air for days. The pressure on the sporting department is as intense as it has ever been. Every decision is under scrutiny, every transfer viewed through a magnifying glass, and every performance judged with the full weight of history behind it. Supporters are not just asking if the team is competitive. They are asking if the people in charge truly understand what Rangers football should look like. That question hangs over every press conference, every interview, and every match day. And it is hard to argue that the supporters are being unreasonable when the team's execution has fallen short on so many fronts. You can feel the impatience building around the striker situation, especially when a forward arrives with a heavy transfer fee and fails to find the net regularly. It becomes a symbol of the wider recruitment issues. A club like Rangers cannot afford marquee signings who take months to settle. They need players who hit the ground running, who impose themselves, who demand the ball and deliver when it matters. The lack of goals in this squad has been glaring, and it has turned every match into a nerve-wracking watch. When chances dry up, pressure mounts on the defense, and the whole team feels fragile. That fragility spreads quickly, especially when the crowd senses it. And when you place that alongside the captain's continuing reliability, the contrast becomes even sharper. Here is a player in the later stage of his career, still producing moments that younger signings have struggled to match. That disconnect leaves supporters wondering how the club can continue investing in players who do not deliver while potentially letting go of someone who consistently does. The debate becomes bigger than an individual. It becomes a question of values, of priorities, of understanding the fabric of the club. What complicates everything further is the ownership structure and the expectations that came with it. When new investment entered the club, many believed it would mark the beginning of a more strategic era, one with smarter signings, clearer planning, and fewer avoidable mistakes. But as results faltered and recruitment misfired, the optimism faded into skepticism. Supporters expected elevated standards, not the repetition of old errors. They believed that lessons from other clubs would help shape better decisions at Ibrox. But so far the evidence has not matched the expectation. There is a sense now that Rangers are caught between ambition and instability. The squad has potential in certain areas, but there is no escaping the fact that several positions are still far from the level required to compete consistently. Strong personalities are missing, creativity is lacking in key moments, and the depth of the squad feels stretched thin. Any injuries or suspensions cause a noticeable drop in performance, and a club aiming for titles cannot function on such a narrow margin. All of this explains why the upcoming transfer window has become such a major point of tension. Supporters are wary of giving another budget to a system they are not convinced is working. Yet the team desperately needs reinforcements. It is a paradox that cannot be ignored. The club needs investment to move forward, but the faith in the people who would spend that investment is wavering. This is where leadership must step up, offering transparency, direction, and a plan that supporters can believe in. Without that, even good signings could be met with cynicism. And then there is the emotional side of football that numbers and reports cannot capture. Rangers supporters are not simply watching a team. They are living the story of the club every day. They want players who recognize the weight of the shirt, who carry pride in every tackle, every sprint, every decision. They want to see spirit, identity, purpose. When the squad looks flat, the connection to the stands weakens, and that connection is one of the greatest sources of strength Rangers have ever had. You can hear it in the conversations on match days. People speak about wanting leadership, about wanting players who stand tall, about craving a style of football that reflects the fierce character of the club. And while the captain continues to embody much of that, the rest of the squad needs to rise to the same level. A rebuild is coming, that much is clear. But a rebuild without direction is chaos, and Rangers cannot afford chaos at a time when both domestic and European expectations remain sky-high. The next few months will determine far more than just results. They will shape the trust between the supporters and the board. They will decide the direction of recruitment, the identity of the squad, and the stability of the dressing room. They will show whether the club is prepared to take bold, informed steps or continue down a path full of uncertainty. At a club as historic and demanding as Rangers, decisions of this magnitude do not fade quietly. They echo through every part of the institution, from the training ground to the stands. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to get all the exclusive news about Rangers FC. Don't overlook any details about your beloved team. It's crucial for Rangers FC fans. The corridors of Ibrox have been buzzing this week after revelations from none other than James Tavernier, the Rangers captain who rarely holds back when it comes to speaking his mind. According to insiders, there's more going on behind the scenes than meets the eye, and it's not all roses at Scotland's most famous football club. Tavernier's candid comments suggest a growing tension among the squad, a subtle but persistent strain that's been quietly brewing for months. Sources close to the dressing room hint at disagreements over leadership, training methods, and even tactics. Tavernier himself didn't pull any punches, apparently spilling that certain players are increasingly at odds with one another, leading to whispered arguments and heated discussions away from prying eyes. Things happen behind the scenes that fans would never believe. He's been quoted as saying in hushed circles, "There's a lot of passion in the squad, but sometimes it boils over when people don't see eye to eye." The chatter has sparked a frenzy among supporters and pundits alike. Who is on whose side? How serious is the unrest? And, crucially, could this undercurrent of discord affect performances on the pitch? While Tavernier's remarks don't point fingers directly, they hint at fractures that could influence team morale if left unchecked. Staff members, apparently, have been working overtime to smooth tensions, but insiders say that the old Rangers spirit is being tested in ways that few outside the club truly understand. Social media has been alight with speculation, as fans dissect every nuance of Tavernier's statements. Some argue this is just the usual preseason drama, blown out of proportion, while others are convinced the squad is entering a delicate period of internal power struggles. Managers and coaching staff are reportedly monitoring the situation closely, aware that even minor unrest can ripple into major consequences on match days. Whether this is a fleeting storm or a longer-term crisis remains to be seen. For now, all eyes are on the players, the training ground, and, of course, the charismatic captain who has once again shown he isn't afraid to give the public a glimpse behind Ibrox's iron gates. The Rangers' faithful, ever passionate and opinionated, are left to wonder what comes next. If the squad can navigate these murky waters, or if the rumblings in the locker room are the start of a more profound upheaval. Greetings, fans. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, as it's greatly appreciated by Rangers FC. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments section below. Until the next video, stay tuned.